So who does it hurt more if this debate, the next one at least, doesn't go on, and maybe both don't go on? John Bussey of the Wall Street Journal, the associate editor, with me right now. Deneen Borelli, Fox News contributor, and Bernard Whitman, a Democratic strategist. John, what do you think? Who needs it more? Now, you could look at the general polls, and I know the president is suspicious of them, but the trend is not his friend with those polls, suspicious or not. So you could make the argument he needs these debates more. What do you think?
I think that's right, Neil. Our poll over the weekend showed him now 14 points behind Biden nationally and weakening among many very important demographic groups to him. Over 70 million people watched the first debate. It's a terrific opportunity for the president to get out there and give his message. He also doesn't want to appear weak. That is one of the concerns, I suspect, about having a virtual conference, caused to be virtual, not in person, because of the president unable to keep the coronavirus out of the White House. And the broader message there being, if I couldn't keep it out of the White House, this is why I couldn't keep it out of your house. 210,000 people dead in the country. The message for the president also has been, complicated. He hasn't gotten off message. Masks, still optional. Vice President Pence's wife joining him on stage after last night's debate, not wearing a mask. So he remains controversial on this topic. The coronavirus is really driving the debate at this point.
Deneen Borelli, long before COVID-19, and back in 1960, 60 years ago, John Kennedy and Richard Nixon had 4 debates. Their third one was a virtual one. They didn't call it that at the time. But John Kennedy was in New York. Richard Nixon was in L.A. The debate went off without a hitch. It was a very powerful debate. Didn't have the popularity or the ratings of the first one, which many said was a game changer for JFK. But it went okay. So do you think the president should consider it? That it's not the end of the world to go virtual, and you can make some powerful points. The irony with that third debate is many people who watched it thought Nixon got the better JFK. He still lost the election, but it worked out okay for him, that particular debate. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it should be an in-person debate, Neil. That was years ago, of course. Looking at the technology that we have today, sure, one would think that would be a possibility, but I think it would be more effective for the candidates to be on stage face-to-face, especially when there are allegations of Joe Biden using a teleprompter and being assisted just in regular interviews in his basement. He needs to be questioned. He has not had any hard-hitting questions, Neil. And I got to tell you, I question the timing of the release of this committee wanting to change the rules, because this is dominating the news. We're not talking about the VP debate that happened last night. And Kamala Harris was not on her game. She refused to answer important questions, especially, will the Biden-Harris ticket stack or pack the Supreme Court?
All right. Maybe you can disagree about that. I mean, you could also argue that the game completely changed with the president testing positive for the virus. But having said that, Bernard Whitman, you could also
but they could delay the debate.
An argument that, okay, but you could make an argument, Bernard, and from the Democratic point of view, that it would be good for Joe Biden to do what he was not able to do in the first debate with the president, to expound on his positions, or is the thinking that I'm sitting on a lead, I don't want to blow this lead, I don't want to risk this lead, so all the better if we don't have those remaining debates. What do you think?
Look, I think it's bizarre. It makes absolutely no sense. It runs counter to the president's self-interest, which is sort of what his voters do when they vote for him. They vote counter to their self-interest. President Trump needs this debate. He is 12 points or more behind in the polls. He came into it behind in the polls last week, which seems like a month ago. He needed to shake things up. In fact, he did shake things up, much to his own dismay. Joe Biden won that debate by 2-1. He's now winning among women 2-1. He's winning among seniors 2-1. President Trump is clearly afraid. He's afraid to debate. He's afraid he's going to lose the election. He's afraid to face the American voters. Remember, this debate was going to be a town hall, so ordinary voters were going to be able to ask the president some questions. He's afraid of obviously facing the voters. He's afraid of facing Joe Biden because Joe Biden shellacked him in the last debate. I think he's perhaps afraid of becoming.
Neither gentleman really comported himself.
Oh, but by 2 to 1, he lost that debate.
I just think this idea that there was some big winner versus the other in that one. It was more or less a circus. But John, I guess what I'm asking, when we go forward here, you could make a credible argument now that maybe the Democrats are thinking this is a good place to be. We're not eager for debate or mess this thing up. They could be playing it conservatively. I'm talking about the style they're going to go here, but they don't want to risk that. So who needs this more?
I think in a situation like this, Neil, the candidate who's not doing as well needs it more. They need to get their message out. So in this instance, because the president is running behind in the polls, and again, the polls are just polls, we know that they can be fallible, but there's a certain consistency to them, and the margin appears to be, over the last few weeks, widening. So the president needs it more, and I don't think that this discussion is over. We might find the president changing his mind and deciding that a virtual debate is just as cool. He might not like the fact that a moderator could technologically cut him off a little bit easier, but he might decide that the size of the audience is critical right now for him to reach. And his political consultants are probably advising him to that point as well.
And Neil, I would argue that the system is rigged.
Well, or you might think that way, but the fact of the matter is that virtual debate, whatever you want to call it, 1960, worked. I was there. I covered it. No, I didn't. And don't even get me started on Lincoln Douglas and how they did that remote
health.
He may be frankly afraid of his own health. A lot of conjecture, guys. Let's see what happens.